Good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Value First Platform, AI Data Readiness with Trisha Merriam. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing good. Doing good. I love talking about AI. I'm not gonna lie.
You do.
So I'm excited for this conversation. Um, how how has your week been? Last week we talked about uh, no perfect data expectations allowed.
It was interesting because I got brought in as a kind of a consult between an agency and an existing client who has been stuck for a little while. And they have they want to use a lot of HubSpot's AI tools, but they're not because there's a bunch of stuff with their data that needs to be fixed. And um, they kind of don't have time to fix them. It's like a small marketing team and they're overwhelmed. And they're just trapped trying to do what they're doing that they could be doing so much faster if they were using AI. So it was it was a very relevant conversation.
What, did you have any success?
Um, so here's where things break down for me, Chris, is that we talk a lot in theory, and then when I try to like actually apply them. Now in this case, I haven't seen this client's data, so I don't really know what the problems are, what they've done, what they haven't done, and all that. But I love sort of a very explicit approach on, this is a way to sort of get at we got to last week was that it really has to do with context. And that's the number one thing that you need to have for AI is context. But it's sort of like, well, what context and what? Like, what do you determine if you have enough context if you're ready to go? In my mind, I still don't know like the quick answer to that. And then I have to go somewhere else, just sit down and think and try to get those answers.
So what was the outcome of like them bringing you in?
The outcome, I think, was trying to help them see that they don't have to be trapped in the cycle of like, I spend all my day just like trying to produce this much content. That there are tools that can help me do like as much as I'm doing plus more, maybe even richer content. Um, and then we have to convince the bosses to help them to invest in those tools, which I think Content Remix is just a slam dunk for small marketing teams. If I was their leader, I would purchase that package every day, all day. It's like the cost of what you would outsource for 2 to 3 articles a month is what that package costs. And what it gives you in return, it is 10x that at least.
All right, we might pull on that thread this whole episode.
So it was sort of the cost of doing nothing is where I think we're going to lean into next of trying to convince their leadership is like, if you do nothing, their competitors are very much larger companies who probably have teams, probably have the tools, already using them. If you're this far behind now, what is the cost of doing nothing for another 6 months or a year?
So my challenge is the outcome that you outlined, which was convince leadership to invest in the tools. How do we get them there, there's some other stuff to convince them of first, I think. And I guess that's what you're suggesting the cost of doing nothing represents.
That's part of it. What, like, I want to hear what you have to say as well. How do you get leadership on board? And I always find that the cost of doing nothing that's something that most leadership teams understand.
I could see that. So I'm interested to hear then, like, what are the usual go-tos in terms of the cost of doing nothing?
You can point to, for most organizations, a handful of big objectives that have been, they're in Asana, they're in a project manager somewhere that the whole organization agrees would be something the company wants, something that would significantly move the trajectory of, pipeline or retention or something. And yet, especially with these small teams, nobody ever has the time to actually do this thing. And being able to say, like, okay, an investment over here to automate some of this drudgery that you're making people do manually could actually free up the space for them to do the higher level, achieve the business objectives that are actually more material and going to move the business in a more, I don't know, scale faster, get more visibility more quickly, whatever it is.
It's so hard not to come up with the same answer over and over. I think the hard part.
I'm guessing you're going to go to Unified Customer View.
Yes.
But how are you going to weave it into this is what I want to know.
Everything you just described, like you said one of the words, which is visibility. Like that's the part that's required for change, like to happen, for better decisions to be made. Like they're not feeling the manual nature of all of the activity. And that's where I'd struggle with like investing in the automation. Like not that alone doesn't solve like the issue. Like, are we willing? Because often you create the space to do more high value stuff and you fill that space with more low value stuff. Mostly because that's the internal relationships that have evolved, are to get used to asking people for low value stuff and people getting used to it being their job to deliver those things. Meanwhile, sometimes nobody's trained or has the capability to do the high value things. Right. And if you're in that spot, it's hard to not just run back to the inbox and like do the next, do the next thing, check it off the list. I think this does relate to our topic today, like automation or AI. Can't solve for, like, in this case, like the strategic decision making required to actually like do this, right? And something that came up today, which I think is relevant, because this is the kind of thing we're seeing over and over. So this is a request for HubSpot help. And yeah, I need to talk to the whole thing to do it justice. Like what we need help with. designing and implementing HubSpot workflows, pipelines, and data models to support high volume business, high volume process. Building workflows that support a bunch of stuff that doesn't usually happen in HubSpot, but certainly can. Supporting this other like back office model where it's like people management and a bunch of other stuff that doesn't happen usually in HubSpot. Advising on custom objects, automation strategy, permissions, and performance considerations to ensure long-term scalability and avoid forcing HubSpot to do things it isn't designed to do. I just read that last part for the first time. We are explicitly looking for someone who understands the strengths and limitations of HubSpot, and not everything will be built in the CRM. And they mentioned some of their other tools too. Engagement model and constraints. We are open to either an individual or an agency, but we do not have 4+ weeks to spin up a traditional implementation engagement. I'm seeing that in almost every request that comes through on LinkedIn or like wherever. Like people are done with that, like experiencing that slow build. They also mentioned speed matters. We want to hire someone quickly and get them productive immediately. And so my position here, they also share a budget, which is probably unrealistic, to make all of these things happen. Because the only way that you can be productive immediately is if they already have done all the things they said they need help with. Designing and implementation.
And the first place my head goes to is that, sure, if they have all of their processes documented, sure. But most companies, you're going to be working with them for weeks, even if you give them templates and a lot of homework to go figure this out. Then you sit down and review it with them. And it's hours of phone calls because you ask this question and there's another exception to the rule. And you ask this question and there's another exception. We do that. It's a little bit different if this happens, if Y happens. So anyway, expectations are, companies' processes are complex. They're always way more complex than people think that they are. And they're very rarely documented.
Yeah. Well, and they started with what we need help with: designing and implementing HubSpot workflows, automation, like pipelines, movement through the system, and data models. That's all of HubSpot. That's everything. And so that tells us, even if they have documentation, it doesn't serve where they want to go, because there's a scaling and growth element like behind this. So like, all right, time to get serious. And so my position is trying to serve the speed. And this is where, like, if you understand AI, you can go fast. So this urgency, trying to serve it while also delivering value, can only be done if their definition of value matches yours. And what I told to the person, like I might be helping, land this project, is value first scoping is designed to be a 3-week process where the first session is business goals and like process. Second week is tech stack situation, right? Whether it's HubSpot or like anything that's required to support that first call. So important that we start with the business process conversation, or we will never get to the business goals like in a meaningful way. And most of the time we start from the tools conversation. And then week 3, deliver current state, like current state brief, future state data model to meet the goals, and then a roadmap to get there. Right. I'm starting to add on unified customer view, documented as like these 4 things. And we can make that happen with AI. And if your people show up to these calls and are honest, we can make that happen in a few days now. So what I said was 2 weeks, like offer 2 weeks, 2,500. But if they don't see those deliverables, current state, future state data model, roadmap, and unified customer view as being productive immediately, then they can't get help, in my opinion. Like the only way we can be productive immediately is if we have that foundation. Because like you say, if we don't have that foundation, we can have a bunch of calls, which we will have to, but we will not be productive immediately. That's for damn sure. Right? Again, we could fix some stuff in HubSpot. We could clean up some bit. We could do a bunch of unproductive stuff that feels good in the moment, but it doesn't get us to where we want to go. And that's where those outcomes of that documentation, like it has to like, and this is where the first 3, like the true docs, like I don't think it's so hard to get a leader who's communicating what they're communicating here. Like that is the traditional implementation engagement that they're describing. That's off the table, right? They don't want that. Can unified customer view be the thing that breaks through and say, like, because they need to be bought in and they need to tell the rest of the organization that that is the goal. It's a valuable thing. Here's why. And that's what puts us in a position to do, XYZ, because now everybody has visibility. And like what I heard today earlier was somebody who's appreciating the coaching say something to the effect of, yeah, I've been saying it for 3 years and now leadership is saying it.
Oh, wow.
And that's a very good thing, right? Like, and now everybody's aligned, they're making progress, right? Like, what is the ROI of that statement? Now leadership is saying the same thing. Like, because that's the value. That's the value of this engagement. Very much not traditional, but like so hard to quantify, right? So I don't know how you serve that any other way outside of trying to bring in tools or AI. I'm at the point where there is no workarounds for the human conversations like that need to be had. And that everything we do should be to automate and use AI to enable those conversations and the space for them. And like people being present in the right way. Like if you show up, if the leader shows up and like, where's the quick win? Like, why aren't we being productive yet? Like, what are we doing talking about business process that like we've done 10 times before? Why is this going to be different? Like all those things, like we're not going to be successful. So it's just like, meanwhile, everybody is saying it like this, right? So how do we, like, the cost of doing nothing is you put your people in a shit show every single day and they don't like get better. They get burned out Like all of the intangible stuff is the cost. Because sometimes, like market forces, all these things, like companies have been getting away with it for a long time. Like they've done something to be successful, right? So, like trying to redefine the value around these things, because we're seeing more and more like when you just put things together inside of HubSpot, inside of the same view, innovation into the process, into how we should be doing things or how we might want to do things happens immediately. And again, is that viewed as productive? Right? If we're used to a bunch of meetings where everybody has a great idea and then we never act on those ideas,
Mhm.
very easy to say not productive. So yeah, I need to stop reading this thing.
I don't know, Chris. I think in a lot of ways, the answer is actually process, and that you have to know what everybody's doing and why they're doing it and how that serves the customer before you build a system, before you enable tools. If you don't have that step, like, and part of that system is also to your point of like, if tools free up time and people are still just going to their inbox to figure out the next thing to do, part of that system is also like, how do you strategically figure out where you're going in a quarter, in 6 months, in a year? That's also part of the process, is having a process for that. If you don't have your processes figured out, nothing's gonna work.
Yep. And that's where it's like, even if AI can even help you with that, it's like, all right, we're not having to do this stuff anymore. We know we need to grow. Like, what's a good idea here? So I think like maybe what I'm trying to do at that 2 week, because even in above the higher in the post, they're like, we work in sprints. So they know. And so like, can we build the muscle for making quick decisions, like confidently, and putting our people in a position to understand those decisions? Like this is where it comes back to like communication and training. Like businesses are notoriously terrible at those things, and you've never had a moment like this where it's just there's so much space that you can create for these things. Are you going to fill them in with communication and training? Like the person that's in charge of the marketing KPIs, if they've never asked you, if you've never asked them for uh, a marketing strategy in a world where AI exists, which no matter how much marketing background they have, there's a good chance you've never asked for that before. Like, are you just expecting it to be delivered, or are you going to ask them like what kind of help they need? So like I'm seeing a bullet here for this conversation, like what needs to be decided by humans before automation even starts. Like what is important to the business right now? And that includes our business capabilities as like human plus AI organization, right? If you can't answer that, it's very hard to create process that supports it. If you don't have a process, then it's very hard to apply tools to serve that process.
Well, let's use that marketing KPIs as an example. So you're the CEO and you're asking your marketing team for their roadmap. What's their strategy for this year? And what are they going to implement and when in order to get there? So that same question applied to that scenario. What needs to be defined by humans before automation even starts? And in this case, automation is them using AI to help them build that strategy. So what needs to be decided by humans before they do that?
Well, that's where AI is not automation. In that scenario, it's a thought partner, collaborator,
Oh, okay. Not
right?
automation. It is just it's the tool that helps you
It
put those strategies.
facilitates.
Yeah,
Yeah. It
it's research.
facilitates in a way that we're like humans have been bad at. Like,
Mhm.
and like, I don't even say it like I mean, the way you can set it up to have a conversation that serves the way that you're good at having conversations, right? Whether you want it to sit there and interview you one question at a time or just be like, I'm going to give you an idea and you're going to give me an idea and we're just going to brainstorm back and forth. Oh, and then by the way, document, click, like document all of it, right? Which is the part that like is missing from every organization. Um, I didn't plan this as I read the bullet, but getting to that documentation, a source of truth, and like what the plan is, like that has to happen, or else everybody's running around doing more of whatever. And that's a lot of that whatever is going to be stuff we've been doing for a while and brought us to where we are. And if we don't like where we are, why in the hell would we do that? So
AI is so helpful for helping organizations define process and to do it like to do a vast amount of it very quickly. And once you have that, then you can use it very effectively to talk to your tools and give them context about what you want. So I think that's what needs to be decided by humans. Everybody buy in to the idea that you got to get your processes documented because the
nobody wants
more
to do
that
that.
nobody wants to do that, but how is it going to learn if you don't give it something to begin with? I've seen what's on the sort of back end of your Claude. You get limited by how many documents you can attach.
Yeah, that's why I'm in a different space now, uh, in which everybody could be in. Um, yeah, and I think that's where I don't even care at this point if it's just me trying too hard or not. I know unified customer views and unified views, they're just the power and impact that they're having already. Like even inside of like as I talk to HubSpot, this has never happened before. I've always been very vocal about how I feel about HubSpot, and I never shy away from sharing that with PMs. But now, this unified view concept, they're asking for more information so that they can share it internally after, right? So that's why, like, forcing it or not, like, maybe this is the trick. That's actually a document, unified customer view, like documenting what that's going to be, but it's also an outcome
Mhm.
that's like, oh, I'm going to be able to use that. It's not like, oh, great, we have a roadmap that's like in the drawer or in the folder now. And then there's no point in my day where it's always going to be up on the screen and I'm making sure I'm going through the roadmap, where unified customer view, like, you might be in that like all day long. So I'm going to see if we can get some help here through this wizard that I built since last week. Because I think so much of this is we try to innovate problems that aren't there because nobody's paying attention or buying into the problems that already exist.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if we can help people with this, let's say value first team. So the idea here is, okay, unified views, great. Like, what does it even look like? Which one do we start with? Things like that. So how big is the team that you're talking about in your example?
Oh, the marketing team is 2 people.
Okay. But the organization is under 50.
Probably.
Sounds like. Yeah. All right. Primary business model, let's say hybrid, or can we say what that is?
They are products.
All right. Products. Like physical products?
Manufacturer.
Okay. So we're going to go here. Until I haven't updated this, I should definitely have manufacturing on here. Current HubSpot usage.
Isn't manufacturing your background too?
Yeah, it's in a lot of other places. Like Claude can't win them all, I guess. Current HubSpot usage.
Moderate.
Continue. Which of these challenges resonate with your organization? Select all that apply. These help us identify which unified view would create the most value.
I'm going to be making stuff up here because, it was only a 45-minute call, so I don't know all the answers. Go with we have multiple systems. Third one down. And the fifth one too.
Like, this is like, those are like guarantees almost in every organization.
Yeah.
Right. That's a part of the trick here. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're just trying to hold the mirror up in the nicest way. And like, yeah, I'll continue. So unified revenue view.
Let's take the first one. I'm going to start blending a few different recent examples.
So pipeline.
Oh my God. And then the second one, love that one.
Deal closes and we discover implementation is way more complex than anyone discussed. And just for those in the room who aren't used to post-sales processes and building systems to support this, this shows up in margin evaporation.
Oh boy,
as you spend all your resources to deliver what was promised. Mm-hmm. That's why it's in the unified revenue view. All right, unified business context.
You know what's missing from here? Just you could use some other questions that are more marketing focused. And I'm only saying that because the team that I was talking to was a marketing team, and most of these are like sales, onboarding, and customer success oriented questions. Okay. Fourth one down, different teams look at the same data. I see that all the time. And oh my God, fifth one down, shiny object syndrome. Yep.
Oh man. Yeah. And then team enablement. And this could be as simple as like project management systems. But the idea is a space where everybody has the information they need to do the next step.
Mm-hmm. I like the first one here. And the last one.
Every new capability requires new headcount. Yeah, those two are definitely related.
This kind of feels like Mad Libs.
All right.
Okay, so I had an idea while we're waiting for this to generate, which is, okay, so the topic of our stream is AI data readiness, right? And when I look at that, I always think of like the actual data, like what's in the first name field, what's in the last name field, and so on. I think it would be really helpful because you talk about context all the time in a future session to share with people like the documents that you actually give to Claude as context. Because I have seen this, and I think people would be amazed to see how much context you share with Claude before you tell it to go do a thing. And that's data.
Yes. Yep. I think that's a good idea. I think that makes sense as a next step. Because I think like we've been so buried in the I gotta clean my data like moment while no data is getting cleaned. Rallying around this in terms like when you said like you didn't know enough or you hadn't seen their data yet, right, to understand what the problems were, like I would probably argue that you probably don't need to see like the data to understand what needs to be done, because it's going to relate to their process and all the other dysfunction that we talk about. So as long as we can do it in the context here, because that's the next step, right? It's like people want to get to the how like right away. And that's where if you are looking at data, this smaller outcome starts to drive like how, and then we base our strategy around that, right? But if we can start from this outcome, whereas like it's pretty guaranteed to have alignment, I think is the trick here in terms of unified customer view and unified revenue views. So if we're trying to prioritize in general, like it's one of these two. But let's pick to try and stay in the marketing side of things. We'll pick unified customer view. And then assessing your current state for unified customer view. Can sales see recent support tickets without leaving their CRM?
Again, guessing. Let's just say no.
Okay. When a new team member joins, how do they learn about key customer relationships?
Yeah, go with that one.
I think some in CRM, some if there's a CRM, then this probably applies as well.
I mean, even if the complete history is in the CRM, do they know what properties to query on in order to find that information in the fastest way? Or are they going to like go view all properties and try to like read them all and figure out what they are?
Yeah. So I probably want to add the word context in here too. how often do customers have to repeat their story to different team members?
Oh,
Often handoffs lose context. And I always like to think of these moments where it, like, obviously sales and service handoff is obvious for sales and success, but the handoff from marketing to sales where somebody filled in a form and then sales reaches out and asks them all the questions of the data that you already have is that's a repeat of their story as far as the buyer's concerned, even if they didn't say it on a call.
oh, how often does marketing even show sales what they're like if they're doing AdWords advertising? How often do they even share the headlines with sales?
Yep, they don't
Wait,
because it's
wait,
got to
what do
be
you?
score.
It's
Just
got to
show
be
us the
what?
score. Just show us the score, and that'll tell us how we need to prioritize that human being, right?
I like to find out what sales thinks of them, but it doesn't always work that way.
Right. Um, where does your organization track customer interactions? One primary system for all teams. Yeah, no. Uh, we're gonna go 4+ systems with limited integration. So a lot of the, like all of these answers, so obvious, right? Like you're not gonna get debates. So like starting from this place of like, because without this, and this is why it's somebody from the outside usually having to do this, because somebody on the inside has been doing this for years. Um, Without this, you just get to those meetings where it's like everybody agrees on what the problem is constantly. And nobody can move forward on any action. So, readiness assessment. Does leadership see fragmentation as a systemic issue or isolated problems?
What does this mean to you? Did like if they
Recognition means understanding that data fragmentation is an architectural problem, not a series of individual tool issues.
I bet most leaders don't know that.
Agreed. So, does leadership see? Well, they see individual problems to fix
They
one at a
see.
time. And often because you have different teams using different tools and they're making the requests to get things fixed.
Mhm.
Is leadership committed to the investment required for transformation? Willingness means accepting that unified views require platform commitment, data migration, and behavior change, not just buying better tools. Oh, based on that previous uh, post that we talked about, looking for a quick fix with minimal disruption. We need to go now. We need to be productive immediately. And even though we've never worked with you before, somehow it's going to happen. Does your organization have bandwidth and an internal champion? Capacity means having an empowered internal owner plus team bandwidth for transition, not being in crisis mode or overwhelmed with competing priorities.
I think the middle one. They often at least come to the table with somebody identified, but they don't actually clear their calendar and give them the space that they need to manage a transition like this.
Agreed. Again, this is why somebody external. But what we're seeing right now in my approach that I really enjoy is like instead of saying you're busy, let us do it for you. It's like here's how can help you not be busy, but you're still responsible for it because you need to lead from the inside, or else we're going to be on calls like all the time. Uh, so now we have a readiness score. In all of this, like I think is just a commitment to look in the mirror, get honest about our problems that everybody is clear on, um, and then like put that conversation to bed. Like most of the tools in the house, like when you talk about just solving those, they are counter to the problems that you just confirmed that you have. Like, how does fixing this tool, like how does cleaning up the data right now, like solve for our lack of integration or poor integration that's just going to come in and wreck the data like again,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the thought is if we can get agreement here, then we can show up in those moments, be like, nope, like not even worth talking about because we agreed this was the problem. That specific thing will not solve that problem. So we should not spend time on it. It should not even make it to the priorities list. Uh, Easier said than done, obviously, but because like what you say, like if we haven't done this, especially when there's multiple tools involved, the data conversation around first names, last names, job titles, like who's doing what in which system and why can often give you different answers for how these things need to be implemented or like which naming conventions to use. And if when you approach it from the data spot first, like teams will understand that and they'll embrace that a little bit and be like, okay, well, that means we can't integrate the systems because my source of truth is different from your source of truth. And we have to be okay with that. Right. And then nobody gets like the unified view.
Well, I mean, that just made me sad. Nobody, nobody, nobody gets a view. Because
I
let me
mean,
tell
but
you, like, when you, the thing that is beautiful about HubSpot is that when you can show a customer that hasn't used it what they can see, like the visibility on a customer account record, where they're seeing all the shit right there, the projects, the tickets, when they got onboarded, what that looked like, all the deals they've had, the renewal deals they've had, and they can see conversations. Their eyes just like, there's smiles, there's excitement. I want that for everybody.
it's a beautiful thing. Like, especially when you can get people who have not been enthusiastic, we'll say, about the process and they see it. And this is why I'm saying there's no way around having the conversations, talking about things out loud, giving everybody an opportunity to speak up and question, right? But the dance you have to do to be ready with something that can create a productive conversation and be, uh, kind of black and white, um, like is, I think, a challenge, but very powerful when you can do it. Because when that person shows up, like they cannot deny what they're looking at, right? Data looking like data together that they've never seen together before. I guarantee up to that point, they thought it was impossible because usually I have to call this person up and I got to go into my email and I got to go into the K drive, because we protect it over here. And I'm doing all that context running around to get my job done. And I'm actually really good at that. So yeah, we'll go that part. But they can't deny like what happened. Like this is where the human creativity just starts popping off. You're like, oh wow. can we do this too? And that's when you've got them. It's just finding that moment doesn't have to be as challenging as I think it has been. So, any final thoughts, Trisha?
I think we should take a look at what documenting process actually means in your world next week.
Let's do it.
Let's give people a look at what that looks like. It's gonna blow their minds. That to me is really what being data ready is all about, is that amount of preparedness.
I never thought anybody would say that to me about me in my life, like being prepared. Not that's yeah. Thank you for that. Yes, I like that plan for next week. So until then, hopefully you can blow some minds on the way to next week.
I hope so. Good luck to you too. Let's blow some minds together.
Sounds good. Have a great day, everybody.